Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting. I will call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. The time is 9 a.m. We have a fairly exhaustive agenda here to move through, so we'll get right started with it. All the councilors are present. We have some staff in the audience as well. And so we'll move to the agenda items, and we'll turn this part of the Committee of the Whole meeting over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Good morning, everyone. Britt?
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on the agenda is Mike Chapley from Tierney Brothers to discuss the change order for the Miners Event and Convention Center pull-down screens. Mike is on the Zoom meeting.
Good morning, Mr. Chapley.
Good morning. Are you guys able to hear me?
Oh, we need a little volume action here.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I thank you. I appreciate everybody. I'm getting some feedback here. I appreciate everybody taking the time here and allowing me to speak with you. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I'm on vacation this week, but wanted to present clerical error when we were putting our bid together for the event. Audio. Unfortunately, one of the items that we missed was the screens, the four electric screens that are going into the divisible event space. We accidentally missed a 0 on the screens themselves. So we have a change order that we're proposing. The screens, when we entered them in, they were sold at $800. They should have been sold at $8,500 each. So it was a relatively large miss. Obviously, we understand that this is our fault on missing that, and kind of a clerical error, like I said. So we're proposing selling the screens to you guys at a $5,100 each, as opposed to the sale price of the $8,500. So we're going to cover some of the costs of that, but these are the last items that we have yet to order for the event space to start the install there. And again, I do apologize. It's just an oversight on our side.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chapley. Just for a moment, we have our Park and Rec Director in the audience, Brian Silber. Brian, any more comments about this change order for the MEC?
Yeah, just to clarify, these are the 4 drop-down screens that are in the main ballroom. I know Mike was cutting in and out, but essentially what happened is when they put in the bid that you guys approved, they had put in their bid $800 per screen. It should be $8,000. That was a clerical error. Obviously, that is a huge difference. So what they are proposing is that they're not going to charge us the $8,000 per screen. They're going to eat a good portion of that and give us a discount on those screens and charge us around $57 something for those screens.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Just as a comment, when I looked through that bid package, I was surprised that these screens were only $800. I thought, well, where are we getting those from? But I can see why now. So let's move to the council, have their lights on. First, Councilor Johnson, and then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that we've done this much, and this is one of the first sizable financial errors. I think we're doing pretty good on this project, so I'm ready to move and support that we allow for the change order. So I'll make that motion for further discussion.
Councilor Johnson makes the motion to move to approve the change order as presented. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion, Mayor.
Support by Councilor Baraboo for discussion. Further discussion. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, was that original item number is 21785, was that originally on the base bid or on the alternate bid?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. What was the question there?
So the item number is can you hear me okay? Obviously not. I don't know if could he hear you better, Britt?
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just real echoey.
Okay. Counselor Paulson was asking if the screens were on the base bid, or were they on the alternate or one of our changes?
Oh, yes, so they were on the base bid.
And was that the original submission when both Tierney and Hunt put their bids forward from the request for proposal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paulson. Anyone else? It's been moved and supported. One more time, any further discussion? Councillor Beyondich.
Thank you. I get frustrated with this. This is a large amount of money, and I'm not sure how this is, Brian just left the room. I was going to ask him how this is affecting the budget or the money going forward on what we have left to do in that building. So that's my only concern is when we accept the bids, how does that end at the end of our project if we're going to be tight or close?
So the question would be, how does that affect our FF&E budget, right? So I think Brian's out in the hallway. Is he out in the hallway? Okay, well, I think that's a valid question. I think the last time we received a report from Mr. Silber is that there was money within FF&E as adjustments being made for bids were over what the projected amount, or the projected amount was more than what the actual amount was, and there was some leeway in the FF&E budget. But to answer your question, Councilor Brown, we should get some information here from Brian with respect to that. So we'll just wait until he comes back in before we move on this motion. So is there any further discussion as we await Mr. Silber? Okay, so the MEC is scheduled to open on September the 20th. Moving forward with this change order is probably prudent. We have a motion on the floor and a second to move forward with that. The only question that we have on the floor right now is how does that affect the FF&E budget? And so there are 4 screens at what the cost was that Mr. Chapley had indicated was about $5,100 per. So if there's 4 screens, that's and each screen is $5,100. So there's a $20,400 difference there. So and that has to come out of our FF&E budget. So.
Mayor.
Yes.
Sherry.
Yes, Sherry.
I know we have money left yet in the contingency fund to cover $20,000.
Yeah, and that's good, but I don't want to take it out of our contingency fund with the budget when we have, our budget items for that. But is that contingency fund
For the MEC.
part of the money that's transferred in for the MEC? So it's not the budget contingency fund, it's the MEC contingency fund? Okay, thank you for that clarification. So do we have a figure as to approximately how much we have left in that contingency fund for the FF&E? But the overall budget, about $250,000 left in that contingency fund. So a sub part of that budget is for the FF&E too. So maybe we can get a clarification for Councilor Beyondich from our Park and Rec Director if he's available. Otherwise, we can hold this motion in abeyance and move on until he gets back into the room. We have a motion on the floor, so we'll have to act on that motion. Mr. Silber, we're looking at 4 screens at approximately, what, $20,400. The question that Councilor Beyondich has is that, is this manageable in the FF&E budget? And if so, by approving this change order, you know, do we have leeway in the budget with respect to that? Brian?
There is still room in the FF&E budget. At this point, it is starting to get tight with a lot of the things that we still do want to add and a lot of the things that we still need to add. May end up resulting in us not getting things off of our wish list, but we should still be able to get everything off of our need list.
So do you have a round figure of approximately how much money is left in the FF&E budget?
At this point, we're still north of 200,000.
Okay, so this is about a $20,400. As Mr. Chapley indicated, Tierney will offer that each screen at $5,100 as opposed to $85. So there's a motion on the floor to move forward with that. Councilor Beyondich?
Brian, I do have another question. When we spoke with Tierney, we added some extra things to their package. Are they necessary because we added wish list things on that end? Is there somewhere that we can cut without affecting that and not taking so much out of our budget?
Wish list things that we had added from Tierney that could be deleted at this point would be the audio or the audio visual items that are up in the fitness rooms. Those could, if the council desired to remove those, I would still leave the speakers in there for making announcements and everything, but the ability to record and project videos in there is something that could be removed at this point.
Is that also something that when we got to the end of this project, if we had that dollar amount available, we could add those back in?
I guess that would be a question for Mike, that if we put those things on hold at this point, could we add them back in later?
Which items are you asking about adding or taking out and adding in?
The items up in those 3 fitness rooms for for projecting classes and for
they could be added later if you wanted to take those out now. You said the fitness room, correct?
Correct, the 3 fitness rooms on the 2nd floor.
So there are some that we could take out of that could potentially be added later. We'd still need the speakers in there for the overall paging, but that would save a little bit of money. I don't know off the top of my head how much that would be, but
Does that answer your question?
It does, and after our meeting last night for the design team for the MEC, I keep asking, which I see I have the dollar amount left for the FF&E budget, but I know there, after talking to you last night, we still have a lot of things that we have to do, and I don't want to be cutting the things that we need. I'm more comfortable taking a wish list thing off of Tierney and going ahead with this, and at the end, if we have that dollar amount left, go ahead and add them back in.
Well, at this point, what I would recommend that we do is ask Mike to put together a proposal for us of what it would save us to remove those things, and we can bring that back to our design team to discuss, and if so, move it forward to the council.
Thank you.
Before we go back to Councilor Johnson, it was a huge error in the bid process, base bid. We're here right now. Those 4 screens are important and imperative to have those screens available for moving forward. I think, in reference to all the other comments made only by the people who in the community, but the investment things being made by people with naming rights and those kind of things, and all these individual businesses and potential users of the facility says, if we're going to pick and choose and move forward, if we're not all in on this, I think it's an area that is of concern to the public. For me, we're here. We need these 4 screens. If we move forward, I have the trust and faith in the design team and the team as you move forward on the wish list portion of it to get that thing done. If it comes down to the Ffne budget, we make a decision with respect to that. But I don't think we cut anything right now. I think we just move forward. There's enough money in there right now. But as you move forward to the September 20th opening date, there's decisions that will have to be made by the design team making recommendations to the council moving forward. But I don't think we should cut here to add here, to add here to cut there. I think, this is my personal perspective, that we move forward and approve this as proposed in the motion and the second. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be concerned that if we have them take out the equipment now and then add it back in, that it's going to actually cost more in the end to do that for the process. I think that we are, just quick mental math, we're saving, they're eating $12,000 to $15,000 worth of equipment for us, and I think that's fair, considering that we have ordered that in those fitness rooms with equipment. So at this time, I would just be in favor of the change order, and I would agree with the mayor that we do have a lot of other, I think as we get closer and closer, I think there'll be a lot more sponsors and donations to help with some of the other costs on the wish list, and I think that'll be, I think that's something that we have to, but I just feel the change orders at this point are the fewer the better. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and supported now. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have, and I don't know if Mike can hear me, so this might need to be repeated to him. I found the item in the base bid, and the manufacturer is Delight, and I just Googled up Delight, and I found some different pricing online. Is the cost that you're passing through to us the manufacturer's cost to you, or is there an additional profit on top of that you're passing through to the city?
Did you hear that, Mike?
I did not. I wasn't able to make it all out.
That's okay. What Councilor Paulson was asking was that she was looking up the Delight brand product online, and she was wondering if the cost that you're charging to the city is the manufacturer's cost, or if it is an additional cost with the profit on there.
So the cost, our cost as Tierney is $8,514. That's the cost that we buy it from the manufacturer, and we're eating a portion of it, and we're proposing to sell them to you guys for $5,134. So we're eating about $10,000 of the screen cost to try and work with you guys as best we can. Obviously, knowing that this isn't the best situation, right? These aren't the types of change orders that we want to be presenting. So yeah, we're selling them to you guys at a loss on our end.
Okay, thank you, and that's kind of what I was getting at. I appreciate the answer.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Baraboo.
Yeah, I agree that this is too late in the game to change this out now. The cost of the installation in the future, putting retrofit and stuff, we're going to have a cost there too, so I'm supportive of this change order.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Bearable. So it has been moved and supported to approve the change order as presented for the four screens at the MEC at the cost that's in your packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
We'll have to take the roll call, please. Chris?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chapley.
Yep, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Mayor, if I may, could we move up item number 6, discuss Vidmar request for closure of property near 5th Street South, so we can get Mr.
Sure,
Vidmar
let's-
back to
Sure,
his
let's
day?
move Mr. Vidmar's issue up the street and alley. Item number 6 is to discuss Mr. Vidmar's request for the closure of property near 5th Street South. This is a continuation from the committee whole meeting of 6/1/21. Do we have any more information to share?
Counselor Bearable had suggested this be put on the agenda for today, as he has more information.
Counselor
We
Bearable?
have more information. Carl and I went down and looked at this piece of property, and Mike had done some work ahead of time with the school and with the dental service that's there. If you didn't realize, there's a parking space back there you use on that Pacer. There's about 10, 12 cars that park there continuously. They've agreed, the dental service and the school district, that from my understanding, and Mike can verify this, that they would, in the wintertime, if we block that, they will take care of the snow plowing and stuff for those cars that park there. There's other ways to get in there, and then the city would only have to work with the alley that is actually the real alley. If you come in there, it comes in and it tees and goes down, so there's not an issue for the rest of the individuals and the residents in the area. And just to get those concrete barriers, get some signs to put up on both ends to let the residents know that it's not a through area and people that are using that. And then another, by 2022, the school is going to be gone, the high school anyway, so there won't be an issue with high school parking there. But they do need access for the school storage facility and for that parking area for the dental service and stuff. So we felt there wasn't really a problem if there's 2 telephone poles there that are on each side. If they go from there and then block down one, that there wouldn't be an issue. And if we sign it, so our recommendation is that we allow that to be blocked. And this year they would still chloride because they got chloride on order for it. Carl, do you have more to say on that?
Yes. When we block it off, doesn't mean it's condemned forever. We can, if we need to go back through there, we can take off the barricades and use it for traffic.
In an emergency, we certainly can do that, or in the future, we can look at reassigning that as an alley and closing the other end, whatever, if we blacked up it. But it needs to be blacked up in the long run. We don't have the money right now for that.
He was going to put that stop right at 5th Street South there, at the eastmost road, remember? That's where he's going to block it off. 5th Street South, yeah. So I don't see a problem with that.
So
That's
there's,
our recommendation now to block that off and use the real alley that's there and block that and let the 2 parties for snow plowing in the wintertime take care of it. And they've agreed to do that, correct, Mike?
so this is a recommendation from Building and Grounds or from Street and Alley, correct?
Yeah, well, at least from the 2 of us. Steve was not available at the time.
Okay, we'll wait for comment from Councilor Johnson too as part of this committee. So this is something that was discussed with Bill Hennis, our Public Works Director, as well?
No, it has not been at this point, other than he said they would chloride it this year. That's not his decision, that's our decision as a committee, if we want to block that road.
Well, I realize it is your decision, as your recommendation to the council for consideration of the request by Mr. Vidmar. My question is that if our Public Works Director has been kept in the loop about this.
I did not talk to him after our last meeting at all on this. We were just there and looked at it and decided that it was feasible to do this, to keep Mr. Vidmar's property from getting full of dust and dirt and cleaning, and he wants to paint, and he can't paint with all the dust and dirt that keeps flying on his building. You know, he wants to upgrade his piece of property. And there are other accesses, there's 4 other accesses to the back of that. There's one alley right alongside of his building. There's another one down further, and then you got the ones coming from the west.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem for access for people. You just got to slow down a little bit and make a corner.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I remember correctly, Matt had suggested in the email about the options, there was a list of options. If we're going to block this, I would like to make sure that we do it effectively, and not just put one barrier in the middle so people can just drive around it. It's going to take, I'm going to guess, a couple, 3, 4 barriers, and maybe they can be staggered so there's still foot traffic can get through, that kind of thing. I think that it can be done properly so that it's still usable by bicyclers, but not by especially ATVs, which seems to be the biggest issue, and then the traffic. So I think, I apologize that this has taken, you came to us with this last year, if I remember right, and I know I visited you last summer. So I think this is the right solution, and I think it helps the city get rid of some liability if something were to happen on our property on a non-existent and a non-declared road. So I think this is the right choice as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay,
There is no.
thank you, Councilor Johnson. And the reason I ask this, if from Bill Hennis's perspective, Public Works, because it is a Public Works project, there is some cost involved. You know, even though it's relatively small, you know, it has to be, you know, planned. It has to be scheduled and those kind of things. That's the only reason I ask about that being done. Councilor Baraboo.
Okay, there is no problem with access because the north end would still be open so those business people can park. There would be the south end that would be blocked up. We want signage on the north end and signage on the south end so people realize that it's there. So the alley is parallel to that, and you can't get through there because there's enough cars parked there. When we were there, you couldn't get through there with an ATV or another vehicle along that west edge of that whole stretch by Mr. Vidmar's until you get to the east-west alley that's there, and that's part of an actual alley. So we took a look at all of it, but we can wait and we can discuss it with Mr. Hannes before the council meeting next week and come back if he has an objection. Doesn't have to be done. We can make the recommendation today and talk to Mr. Hannes in between times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking from a procedural perspective, a scheduling perspective, making sure that our different parts of our city, you know, is who's responsible for taking action and with whatever issue is that we require them to do, so that, you know, they're in the loop about that. So thank you. Councilor Freely.
Yeah, when we originally discussed this, I had some reservations, and one was that there was a potential for increased traffic to be egressing that area past my properties, which isn't necessarily true now that I've talked to Charlie about that and gone out and reviewed. There are plenty of other egresses from that area, especially the parallel alley, and so I don't think that it's necessarily going to increase traffic past my place. I don't anticipate that. My other reservation was the potential for the city no longer being responsible for snow plowing. That was a concern to me as well. I did go speak to personnel at the school garage, and they were fully in favor of us blocking off this area, and that they also reiterated they've been plowing that area and would continue to do so because they're usually there earlier in the morning than the city would get there anyhow. So some of those reservations I have been alleviated, and I do want to commend Mr. Vidmar, who keeps an impeccably admirable property on the corner there, and anything we can do to reduce the speedy traffic that goes through there and the dust that's kicked up, I'm in favor of. And I do believe that Mr. Hennis was originally, when we spoke about that, he said we can do what we wish to do as a city, given that the properties that are adjacent to that, my understanding is we own those lots that are adjacent to that. So at this point in time, I think it's prudent for us to move forward and make an effort to do that on behalf of Mr. Vidmar and the entire neighborhood there.
Thank you. And the only reason I ask about the Public Works is just from a scheduling perspective. You know, Mr. Vidmar has been very patient. We've gone through a process. You know, the wheels of city government sometimes move slowly. In this particular case, this is one example of that. But I just want to make sure from a schedule, if we approve this, you know, it's not going to be done next year. You know, with that, Bill Hennis can give us an idea and give Mr. Vidmar and all of us an idea when that can be done. Councilor, before we move forward with the motion, we'll go back to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So one of my questions was, has that chloride been sprayed on the property?
They only were receiving it.
Okay, so with the assumption that that's going to happen fairly soon?
I'm assuming that once they got the shipment in, that it would happen fairly soon.
Okay.
To put that down on that piece of
Okay.
property.
Because that's already been quite a length of time since Mr. Vidmar was here last time. Then I'm in favor of this. I was in favor of this before. But if you look on the maps in our packet where the star is, and then if you go, I'm going to use left and right, not east, north, west, and south. But if you go left of that, there's a little sliver. And then left of that, there's another sliver. Again, when I was on the St. Louis County Land Explorer, it does state that the City of Virginia is responsible for that property. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Hennis, stated that it was DMIR property and that there was some, I don't know if it would be title issues with that, but I think we really need to go back to the actual ownership and try to clear up the ownership of those two parcels. So if the city, once the school is gone, I mean, they won't be plowing there. I'd like to establish who is responsible ultimately for those two parcels. And then if in fact that could be a potential interest to any homeowners or adjacent landowners, that could be established, you know, maybe as John Sullivan kind of looks at what that area is going to look like for redevelopment around the school, I think it would be important to establish the ownership of those two parcels. So I don't know if you guys would go along with that. I know Councilor Bearbu and I had a quick conversation about that, but I think that would be an important step as well. But I am in favor of blocking the street off. I would also like to see us move forward on formalizing that ownership of those two parcels.
Okay, thank you. And now we've had some discussion, some clarification from staff, recommendations from Building and Grounds, so we're looking for a motion to move forward. Councilor Johnson.
I will move that we block the south end of the city property that is not an alley off of Fifth Street in consultation with Matt Reed for proper placement of the barriers, whatever the permanent, semi-permanent barriers. I just don't want signs out there. I want the concrete. I think that seems to be the idea, is we put something that can't just be pushed out of the way. So the south end of the city property at Fifth Street South, north of, quote, Rogerville Road, with concrete and appropriate signage.
Okay, thank you. And work with Public Works in order to accomplish that. So it's been moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Is there further discussion?
Just one thing. According to what we've seen, the city actually, according to the county records, owns that portion that we're talking about. And you can't go back now. The railroad company doesn't even exist anymore, so we own it. That's the way I look at it, because the work was done way back when I was first on the city council on all those railroad properties. And I'll tell you what, try to go back and try to figure that out now, and they don't even exist. The railroad doesn't even exist anymore. So be like a nightmare. So, but according to the county records, we own that section that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. But it's been moved and supported with respect to Mr. Vidmar's and the closure. So it's been moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, opposed
No, I just will have a comment after.
about this thing? Well, part of the discussion portion of it, so,
I wanted the vote to go through and then have city staff direct them to clear up the property.
yeah, that would be the second motion.
Right.
Okay, so moved and supported. Further discussion. All those in favor, aye, you were aye. Okay, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vidmar, for your patience moving forward. And so, Counselor Beyondich, you have another motion you'd like to make?
I would like to direct city staff to define and put on record that the city does own these pieces of property, so that will be cleared up.
Support.
Okay, moved by Counselor Beyondich, supported by Counselor Johnson to direct city staff to research that property to determine once and for all the ownership of that parcel, just to clarify that property to ensure the ownership. So is there, it's been moved, and we have moved and supported? Yes, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. So would that include title search on that, and then a legal title applied to the city? If you could maybe explain that, because that's where I was going from.
Yeah,
before.
to determine the owner, yeah, go ahead.
If I may, Mayor.
Please, Mr. Lindsay.
So following the last meeting, I did go out and take a look at the title to that property, and by and large, Councilor Baraboo is correct. The city is the record owner of that property. There are a couple slight irregularities in the chain of title, and so what I can do is I will provide to Britt a report just indicating what those slight inconsistencies or irregularities in title are. There's title standard rules that apply, so I'll take a closer look to see if any additional action is required. A lot of times when municipalities received title to property from railroads or other entities of that nature, they often come with these slight irregularities. It shouldn't be a large project to get the title cleared up so that it's perfected, so that if we wanted to sell or transfer title in the future, we'd be able to do it encumbrance-free.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for, so appreciate that.
Okay, so that's all included in the motion and direct staff to do so. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vidmer. Appreciate it. Back up to item number 2 is a proposal to remove the universal waste from the Miners Memorial Building. This is just slightly north of what Sherry and I are allowed to approve, so we are asking today for permission to approve the quote.
Brian?
So as you guys are all well aware, when we come towards demo of buildings, there are several steps that we have to jump through, several hoops that have to be gone through. One is asbestos abatement. The other is all of the other hazardous material that is in the building before it can come down. So this is, we've already done the asbestos abatement, which was way less than we were anticipating it to be. So this is the removal of all of the other hazardous items, such as the smoke detectors, electronics, lights, ballast for the lights. So we need to have that done before the building can come down in a safe and environmentally friendly way. So asking the council to approve today $13,110 for ACCT Incorporated to do that removal.
Thank you, Brian.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Paulson for discussion. Further discussion, anyone? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. Brian, was there anything extra in the IRRB demo grant? I know that was only for one portion of where the field was, but is there any dollars available from the IRRB for this portion?
I'm going to throw that over to Britt because she's been dealing with the demo grants with IRRB.
No.
Oh, there isn't anything extra, but this is part, we did budget, I think it was 80,000 for asbestos removal, and it cost us 13. So this is still well with under what our budget was for the
Okay,
removal of hazardous materials.
thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Okay, it's been moved and support. Has it been moved and supported?
Yes.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson?
Brian, can you give us a very short timeline again on what happens once we get this done? What's the demolition? When can we expect to see something touching the building, that kind of stuff?
Our current plan is, let me pull out my calendar here so I can give you as close to accurate dates as possible. Summer ice ends on Friday, June 25th. On Monday, June 28th, the power, water, sewer are all disconnected from the building. At that point, we are also pulling out the last of the things from the building that we are going to salvage, which would be those boards for the back rink that our plan is to move to Ridgewood here in the future. On the 29th, the demo contractor is mobilizing, and on the 30th, the demolition will begin. That will begin mainly with interior demo. Hopefully by the week right after the 4th of July is when you will start to see items going down on the outside of the building. They will be starting to demo the school addition on the back of the miners, which is where the high school locker rooms are. That is the first thing that we need out of the way so that we can complete the 6th Street addition. We still have some water lines and everything that need to be tied in there, so that's the most important portion of the building for us to get out of the way so that we can finish the MEC project. The remainder of the building should be on the ground by the end of July, and we are essentially just leaving it as a open area for future development.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and supported to approve the ACCT quote for this project. It's in your packet. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Next item on the agenda is review the proposal for the Virginia Police Garage Repair and Addition, and we have Brian Bergstrom from SCH on the phone,
Morning, Brian.
and Matt Reed in the audience.
Matt? Good morning, Matt. SCH?
Morning, Brian, can you hear everything okay?
Oh, yes, morning.
So Brian's been working on the police demo. Yeah, we can hear you. Why don't you go ahead, Brian? Why don't you take this?
Okay. So the police garage repair and addition project, preliminary drawings are included in your packet, I believe. The plan right now is to salvage as much of the existing garage that has been damaged by the fire as possible. What will be replaced is the roof structure and the entire roofing system, insulation and roof membrane to make the building watertight again. The existing exterior bearing walls are intended to be salvaged. We've had our structural engineer out to investigate and review those, and he feels those can be reused and salvaged. The existing mechanical unit, sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Keep going.
Oh, okay. The existing mechanical unit, which sits on top of the roof of the existing garage, will also be supported during construction and salvaged in place as much as possible. We will have to redo some connections, piping, and ductwork as part of that process. The building addition is approximately 750 square feet. Is just south of the existing garage. Our intent is to replace the existing floor in both the existing garage and then into the new garage with a new floor drain to provide for drainage of snow and water that melts off the police vehicles or other items stored in there.
The structure of the addition would be steel framed with a masonry, limestone type veneer, kind of trying to tie in the new facility across the street or adjacent to the existing city hall to kind of tie the two together and provide a nice look for the facility. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I can certainly answer any questions you have or go into more detail if you have additional items you'd like to discuss.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the council for additional discussion. First on the agenda, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. What's being done for lighting in the front and the back for security and safety of our officers?
Did you catch that, Brian?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Lighting.
Councilor Johnson asked what type of lighting or what if anything's being done on the exterior, I presume is what you meant, right? Of the building for the safety and security of the officers.
Code requirement. Code requirement.
So at this point, what we could do is provide some additional cameras. We have not had great discussions with the police staff about what additional security measures on the exterior of the building. But certainly additional cameras could be incorporated into the design.
I think the question from Councilor Johnson was for lighting. Isn't that a code requirement that we exterior lighting is required?
Oh, the exterior material?
The lighting.
The lighting.
For the garage on the exterior portion of it.
Oh, the lighting. Yes, we would do some exterior lighting that will be required over the doors.
I guess my point is that code versus security and safety. I'd want to make sure that when they're coming in and out at 3 o'clock in the morning, that it's not just lit, but it's safely lit. And I guess I would refer to Matt, that you asked that you speak about that too with them when you're getting into the details.
Brian, have you met with the police department to talk about any of those, of the lighting related items?
We haven't specifically discussed that in detail, no.
Okay, so something we're still yet to do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Okay, any other questions for the information that's in your packet, which is we are now reviewing the proposal for the police garage repair and addition with a question from Councilor Johnson to ensure that there's some safety and security measures taken for at least lighting in the area to accommodate the safety measures, not just the code requirement, but the safety and security as we move forward. There was a discussion from SEH about maybe adding some data ports in there for some cameras if necessary. So that is not part of this proposal, but could be added. Very good. Okay, thank you. So looking for additional council information, questions, comments, or motions. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So is this covered fully by our insurance?
No, the addition is not covered. The renovation of the existing garage is covered, so that was something I was just going to bring up under discussion. The insurance will pay $227,900 approximately for the renovation of the existing garage. If we want to add the addition, that's something that we'll have to take on ourselves. We had that discussion when we were talking about the plans, that this might be our one time to make an addition onto this building if we are going to do it. So we're at that point now. Do we need to decide, are we going to add the addition or are we not going to add the addition?
So when the insurance company came forward, did they have an adjuster that actually looked at the damage and then they assessed to put it back together the way it was? It's
$227,900. They had a structural engineer come up here and do that, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So of that $638,469.20, the 200 would be covered by insurance.
Yep. And this is just a proposal from SEH. We'd still have to go out for bids. The bids may come in lower, they may come in higher. This is just their estimate of what they think it's going to cost for us to.
And that wouldn't include the lighting, additional lighting. There's the lighting to code.
Correct.
But then any
It'd be
additional
additional
lighting or any additional security would be on top of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the security for sure, the lighting, I mean, it's depending on how expensive it is, there might be enough in the contingency of the project to cover that, but right now, no, there's no additional lighting, it's just what's required for code.
Okay. And then is there an ADA component to this? If we have an officer that had an ADA requirement, is there a compliance component to this?
Brian, I don't know if you heard Councilor Paulson, but she asked if there was any ADA components to the expansion or to the renovation of the existing part of the building.
Yes, so the proposed plan would make the facility ADA compliant through a new door on the addition. That door would be sized to be ADA compliant and be at grade. Additionally, so the garage would be accessible from the exterior. The transition from the garage, the existing or new garage, into the existing building would not be an ADA compliant access point at this point. There are some steps that are required to be traveled through. So that is not something that is addressed. So the garage itself would meet ADA. The connection back to the city hall would not be an ADA compliant route.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So the accessibility is within the garage for ADA, but not from the garage to the city hall.
Yeah, it's ADA accessible from the exterior, but not between the two buildings.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So, thank you. So the question before us today, if this is an accurate assessment, Britt, is that we're reviewing this proposal. We're looking at maybe taking some council action about accepting the proposal, the recommendations by SCH or the proposal from SCH, but we'll have to go out for bids to determine the costs associated with this, to include not only what's in the proposal from SCH, but the additional added component that Councilor Johnson brought forth. And so if that's the case, we would need a motion to move to move on the proposal with those additions, and then once those proposals are come to fate, we would send the proposal, which is the specifications, out for bids. Is that correct? And so the
We have to
second,
determine today, are we going to add the addition onto the garage or not,
that
is
was
what the
my
question
second
is.
question.
Yep.
So
And
the
if we are, then we could ask SCH through a motion to proceed with RFPs for the project as it's shown on the diagram.
yeah,
in
that
the
would be
packet.
only for the addition, correct?
It would be for the renovation and the addition.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Britt. So does everybody understand that portion of it? Okay, thank you. Looking for council action. So what are you asking from us, Britt? Once again?
Do we want to move forward with the addition onto the garage? If we do, according to the plans that are in the packet or the elevations that are in the packet, do we want to allow SCH to proceed with an RFP to get quotes for this?
And so by getting quotes, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to accept them, but just right? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Britt. Councilor Johnson.
Matt, is it feasible to do a base bid of just the renovation and then the add alternate of the addition if we go out for bids?
Yep, so Brian, Councilor Johnson asked about doing a base bid for the renovation and then an alternate for the extension. What are your thoughts on that?
It is possible to do that. We could break the two apart. That is a reasonable request.
I would make the motion to authorize staff to bring forward a proposal that would have the base of remodeling and then with the add-on of the extension, so that we can figure it out from there. And that's my motion, and then I have further discussion.
Okay, could you please one more time, Councilor John, clarify the motion?
The motion is to authorize staff to go out for bids or whatever, an RFP on renovating the existing garage with an add alternate of the extension.
I think maybe, Britt, for clarification, it probably would be an advertisement for bids. It's over 175,000, so we'd have to publicly advertise it. We wouldn't be able to get quotes, but
Okay.
we're talking about the same thing here, but
We have to
terminology.
go for request for proposal process, the full process with the
Full
21
process,
day,
yes.
yes, because it's going to be more expensive than 175.
So the motion includes the advertisement for bids?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Is there support for that?
All support for further discussion.
Okay, support by Councilor Bearable for further discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Bearable.
Well, you know, are we going to be using this facility and this space after we do the new public safety area, and how long and what type of time frame is that space going to be continue to be used by our police department, or is it, if we're not, we add on, and what are we going to do with it? Is it going to be empty space sitting there or storage space, or what are we going to do with it?
Well, right now, it's called the police garage because they're occupying it, right?
I understand,
But
but
the
I'm
question
looking
is,
down the road.
well, down the road, this is part of City Hall space. There's some significant storage issues, the challenge that we have. We got that little shed out in front of City Hall. We got that little storage area in the back that's supposed to be for emergency equipment that's filled to the brim. We've got, so it would be used for not just the police cars, but maybe other vehicles that are parked in there, other city vehicles, so they don't have to be out in the wintertime. And so I think that the addition, from my perspective, is that it may not be used by police vehicles, but it would certainly be used by the city for other purposes.
So all you need to know. Thank you, Mayor. So as long as we're going to utilize it, I don't have an issue with it.
Am I accurate in making that assessment, Britt?
Yeah, absolutely. And the roof of the garage is actually where our cooling tower and our heating units are. So it's imperative we leave it somewhere. So it would be great to leave it on there.
Thank you, Councilor Baraboo. So it's been moved and supported. Further discussion. First, Councilor Paulson, then back to Councilor Johnson.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Paulson.
Thank you for bringing that up, Britt, because I did have that question. So the HVAC system, that issue has been remedied with the contractor, with Max Gray?
Yes.
So that's all fine?
Yep.
So we really do need to protect that.
And we've had numerous discussion with Brian Bergstrom and Matt about how we're going to, during the construction, how that is going to be held or moved or what we're going to do, because it is working right now. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, I'm also looking at, after the Public Safety Center is built, having a ground level entrance and a reception area would be phenomenal for access for folks, even if they have to come through the building another way to get to a department. But having, the big garage door could be replaced by a series of windows, and that could be an entrance. So just a long way out. We don't have a accessible, if you're need an accessible entrance, you walk into a big hallway and you get in an elevator and you have to choose up or down, or having people be able to walk into City Hall and have someone greet them immediately would be, in my opinion, a great thing. And that could happen right out here in the extended garage in the future. And there'd still be room in the back to park city vehicles. So, and that's probably 10, 15-year vision, but just doing some long-range, out-of-the-box thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
I'm sorry. One more point. I know we would have to go out for bids, but Sherry, is there dollars anywhere for this type of an expansion?
I guess I'd like to see the final bids come in, but yeah, there'll be monies.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. So it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Brian. The next item on the agenda is a request that we received from Bill Lovato of the City Band. They are looking for a location to have their city band concerts in case of rain. That's normally the MEC or the miners. The miners won't be here in a few weeks. And so they had spoken to the mall about having a possibility to use the mall as a location during rain events for city band. The Rock Step reached out to me and said they would just need an agreement signed. There is no fee, but being the city band is a function of the city, we would have to sign the agreement that allowing them to be in the mall. Brian has anything else he wants to add?
I'll just answer questions.
Well, I talked to Bill Lovato as well and did direct him and his staff to you, Britt. So thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Brian, will the chairs and the music equipment be stored in a place that they'll be able to access for both, whether either place?
Our staff would be moving the chairs. We already do the chair and music stand setup. We assist the city band with moving their larger instruments for the band performance in the bandstand. Obviously, we would do the exact same thing in the event of inclement weather and we had to move down to the mall.
So where will they be storing that? Right now, it was last season under the tunnels and that, where are they storing it while there's no place there to store it? Is that your problem?
Various different places.
Okay.
We've got some stored in the park garage, some stored in the Seroptimus building. We've already done the chair and table shuffle throughout our park buildings, upgrading the tables and chairs that are in our park rental buildings. So we're moving lots of things around. Essentially, we're just keeping everything as accessible as we can to make things as easy as possible on staff for these setups. But this summer is a crazy summer as far as storage goes, since we are losing our normal storage area in the miners.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Brian. I would move acceptance of the temporary use license agreement with Rockstep.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Johnson. Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 2, term of license, it states it shall commence on the 17th day of June 2021 and shall terminate on the 23rd day of July 2021. Is that supposed to be 22?
No, this is just covering the
1 month?
the 6 weeks that they do the summer concerts.
Okay, so they don't go into August at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Paulson. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Item number 5, we had a request from Vermilion Gold, who was doing some exploratory investigation in property we own near the dump, to request that we extend their contract for that it expired May 31st, and they want to go through November 30th.
Move the addendum.
Thank you. Moved to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support? Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion?
I do, Mayor. Kate Lehman, the one that is doing this, has expressed that she will be back to talk to the council in November or December when they're finished with this round to kind of update what they've been working on.
Okay, so thank you, Britt. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7 is approve the resolution for laboratory services with Pace Analytical for the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. In your packet is the resolution. They've done our laboratory services in the past.
I would move the resolution for laboratory services with the understanding that this is the typical cost for such services.
Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So the date on the, in our packet is, created date is 6/10 of '21, expiration 7/30 of '23, so it's 2-year contract with them. And then the grand total at the end is $54,927. Is that on pace for what the past performance has been for Pace at the wastewater treatment plant? I don't know if we have that information.
This is Pam,
Yes, Pam.
listening in.
Thank you. Oh, do we have an answer for Counselor Paulson?
They don't do all of, according to Paul Moe, they don't do all of the testing, Counselor Paulson. It's just so they have a price if they need to do some testing rather than only getting certain tests. They just give a general price on all the tests that could be possible if they had to do them.
Okay,
So they wouldn't test the total 54,000.
that's the maximum.
The maximum. So it depends on what test they need to run, and each test is a different price.
And each test is reported to our staff to show what the legitimacy of those tests. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Okay, so there really isn't a state set amount, Pam, each year that we typically have tests conducted, like cost on those? Annual cost to Pace?
The prices are set, but
Yep.
if they depending on what tests they would do. So if they were only going to do nitrogen ammonia testing on water, that would be the total price would be
Okay, and this is something we have
$10 a testing
in the budget.
per test.
We have budgeted this out, Sherry, for this specific testing.
We budget for testing in the wastewater treatment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. So it has been moved and supported, correct? We're looking for a motion regarding the resolution, approving the resolution for the laboratory services with Pace Analytical for the wastewater treatment plant in the amount as in your packet. Looking for a motion.
That was moved and supported.
That's what I thought. Was moved and supported? It was moved by Counselor Freelieb and supported by Counselor Beyondich. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 8, and it's a request from the grand opening to approve the grand opening celebration at the Miners Event and Convention Center. And we have Brian Silber here, we have Carly Gobats, we have Tracy Lundeen and Tyler Lundeen all on the phone.
Okay, thank you. Once again, Brian, thank you.
Getting tired of seeing me yet?
No.
So, as you are well aware, the MEC is getting close to opening. September 20th is our grand opening. We have assembled an absolutely incredible grand opening committee, grand opening celebration committee that consists of Carly Gobats and Steve Carlson from the Park and Rec Commission, Tyler and Tracy Lundeen from Lundeen Productions, Britt, Sherry, and myself from the city, and Betsy Olivanti from Revive Virginia. We've got a list of events, but what we are looking for council approval today is for Friday night's event. We've teased a little bit that we would like to bring a national act to town, and Tracy and Tyler have worked diligently to make that wish a reality. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy to present what we are asking for today.
Good morning,
Can you
Tracy.
hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I submitted, I should say we've been working on it for quite some time, and I submitted a rather extensive list to the committee a few weeks ago that ranged everything from classic country to soft rock and plenty in between. This is a very interesting year because of COVID, no one being sure when it was going to end. A lot of 2020 reschedules to 2021. So I presented this list and I asked a group of people to kind of focus on maybe their top 5 choices. And it seemed that the package that struck the best chord was a package with the bands Loverboy and Night Ranger, both very popular 1980s bass groups, which from the perspective of promotions, oldies to me are 50s music, okay, but oldies nowadays are 80s music. And this is the heart of 80s music. You've got anthems like Working for the Weekend, Still Rockin' America, Sister Christian, one of the themes from the movie Top Gun. I mean, these guys really, between the two of them, sold 37 million albums worldwide. And Loverboy is in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, which, of course, us not being far from Canada, probably won't hurt ticket sales either. So that's the package we kind of came up with and presented to the committee.
Okay, thank you. So the cost is in your package. So is this a cost associated with the budget itself, or is this a cost recovery based on ticket sales?
Brian, did you want me to help with that answer?
Yeah, I'll let you handle that, Tracy.
The cost that the proposal in front of you today is an estimated cost, which I've supplied some associated numbers with based on what the agents and producers have told me is pretty typical cost associated for this. There is a revenue generating component that we have discussed, which would involve selling tickets. It would also involve ancillary revenue like recovery on beer and liquor sales, merchandise, and concessions.
Thank you, Tracy. We'll move to the rest of the council for any questions or comments with respect to this proposal in your packet. Councilor Johnson.
I think this is an amazing idea. The people who are going to come to this are going to pay for it from all over the place. You know, this is the 80s. I was younger then, but but those are the people that now have the expendable income that have not done anything in a year, and I can't see us not at least breaking even on this. Besides, it's going to be able to demonstrate to everybody that yes, we can hold an event of this size and it will work, and I think we need to move forward with this. And anything that doesn't get paid for comes out of your budget, Brian. How's that sound? No. But I would move to authorize to move forward with this and get some solid numbers and be able to come up with a real plan and move forward with this, both with the week-long celebration and specifically engaging with the National Act.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Johnson to approve the grand opening celebration request that's in your packet at the Miners Event and Convention Center. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, turn me loose, I'll be there. All right. Tracy, could we go through the week events, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Specifically the Tuesday, the Ice Arena event, what is that? The Thursday, the Black Tie Gala event, what is that? And then Saturday, the Regional Act concert, what is that?
I'll go ahead and take this one, Tracy.
So, thank you. I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear the question.
We have to get this system fixed.
I'll even back up one day before, and we'll just go through the whole week's worth of events for everybody. Monday, September 20th, we're going to have a ribbon cutting with all the local dignitaries. We're also inviting state and national politicians to come to the ribbon cutting. We also have several other non-political dignitaries that will be coming to it. We're looking at this being a late afternoon, early evening event where we will literally have the ribbon cutting. Then we will be giving tours throughout the building and having some small things going on. This is the initial day of the grand public is going to be, this will be the first time that the public is coming into the building. So there's going to be a lot of oohing and awing. We're going to try and make this into a big deal. But then our goal is to showcase what this building can do. So we're going to focus each day on a different area of the building. On Tuesday, we're going to focus on the ice arena. We're still kicking around all the events that will occur that day, but essentially it's going to be the first skate. I'm pushing for those who came and participated in the last skate at the Miners to wear their last skate at the Miners t-shirt, and they can be the first ones on the ice. We're also going to do some things to showcase our bumper cars. We'll probably do some skill competitions on the ice. Make it a fun day on the ice that Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, the Laurentian Chamber of Commerce is having business after hours in the main ballroom that is being hosted, or jointly hosted by Lundeen Productions and DSGW. So that will be an introduction to people into the ballroom. Then we also are planning on doing a black tie gala in the ballroom. We know that this ballroom is going to host a lot of formal events, so why not kick it off the first week with having a black tie gala in there? We'll have some live music being performed in there. We'll work with work with caterer to have things for people to eat, and just do a really upscale event in the first week. Then Friday night is that we're going to rock the concert. Thank you very much for approving that. Blow the roof off of the main arena with a national act concert in the main arena. Now for these national acts that we're looking at, they no longer have multiple semis that follow them around the country with all of their staging and lights and everything. We have to provide the staging and lighting. So we're going to be working with getting staging and lighting in there. And if we're going to set it up for Friday, why not double dip and do something on Saturday night also? Since this is a regional facility, we want to showcase that we can bring a national act to town, but on Saturday, we want to go back and focus more on the region. So we're going to be reaching out to a lot of regional bands that are popular, and then do a second night of concerts in there, which would be a much cheaper ticket price to get in. Going to the national act, we may be charging $35 for a ticket. The regional acts would probably do $5. I fear that for our national act, we're going to have more than 4,000 people that want to come to this concert, so somebody's going to be left standing outside and upset. So we want to ensure that at least there is something music-wise for them to do, and that would be on Saturday for that regional concert. And that way we're getting more bang for our buck out of that staging and lighting. So at the end of the week, then staff is going to be dropping from exhaustion and realizing what exactly this building can and will do. Hopefully throughout the week, we've had tens of thousands of people come through the doors. They are oohed and awed and blown away with everything that we've done, and Tyler's phone starts blowing up with even more reservations being booked. In addition, the national act that we're working with, Tracy has reached out to a national promoter. So we do this right. We get on that circuit so that whenever they're looking for another date, we are being called, because they now realize that there is a venue in Northeast Minnesota that can not only meet their needs, but exceed their needs. So the MEC becomes what we have envisioned it being, what we've hoped for it to be, and we show everybody this first week that we're going to be able to meet and exceed their expectations. Did that answer your question?
In a wonderful way. If I could just add on to that, if
Please,
you don't mind.
please do, and then we'll go to Councilor Johnson.
On the ice arena event, just a suggestion to invite maybe some of the people or players that are going actually on the wall. I think that would be a nice extension for.
That'll be for the ribbon cutting.
And also I would say for the ice event, to have them come and skate, anyone who's on that wall that the design team's working on with art. And then on the regional concert, I have been approached by some local people who would like to maybe participate in some of that. I don't know if you could extend that, not to extend your committee, but to work on that regional portion with some of our local key players.
Absolutely.
If that's an option. I have been approached
Yes.
and asked that they would like to have a voice on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson.
But I'm glad to see that Carly's on that committee, because she does have those connections, so that's great. So if I were a business in town or in the region and wanted to be a sponsor of one of these or all of these evenings, how would I go about doing that?
You could contact us at the Park and Rec office, either by phone or email.
So I could maybe sponsor be a sponsor of the big Friday night concert and get mentioned once or twice to 5,000-6,000 people because they're standing outside listening through the walls, or.
And also don't forget that we will be doing advertising for the concert.
So there could be some cost recovery in the initial for all of these things. I just think that having, on the Black Tie Fair night, having people, vendors that maybe want to help sponsor that, and they get to put up, for lack of a better term, decorations, and they get a little sign that says he's sponsored by so-and-so. I appreciate all the work. This is going to be amazing. I was going to be going on vacation that week, but that has now changed, so I will be here.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So it has been moved and supported to move forward with and the approval of the grand opening celebration at the Miners and Convention Center. More details to follow. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Tracy and Tyler and Carly, for being here. Appreciate it. Item number 9 is the introduction and information on bird scooters, and this is coming to, the gentleman is actually going to do a presentation next week, but we wanted to kind of update you before they came to the meeting on the 22nd. John?
So who's on?
Britt,
John.
I don't have that part in my packet. Is there something you could just run? I know I wrote part of it, so I'm familiar with it, but.
Thank you, Carly, very much.
I got it, thank you. Thanks, Carl. So, Bird Scooters, they make electric scooters. They contacted the city of Virginia. The guy that's their development guy is Mike Butler. They're operating all over the country. They're fairly young, looking at going public on the stock exchange. And they want to locate a scooter rental business in the city of Virginia. It's a rideshare type concept where they take care of the equipment as well as the placement, maintenance, fee collection, and all operation. There is no cost to the city. However, the city would need to enter into an agreement with Bird to allow them to conduct business within the city. And I actually have a memorandum of understanding that I'll be providing at the next meeting. It's a fairly brief, it's called a memorandum of understanding, but when you read into it, it's more like an agreement. But I guess I'm not intimidated by that because the actual agreement, there's a 30-day cancellation portion in there where either one can cancel the contract. So to me, I don't think there's a lot of risk for us as a city. They're operating in Grand Rapids, so I reached out to my counterpart there at the city of Grand Rapids and talked to the community development director there. He's been there a really long time, and I asked him how this was going and how it was operating, and he said it was really good. Their goal is to have 50 scooters there, but they started out with 25. And he involved the police chief early on, and so they could, be up to date on how this works and everything else. The police chief likes it because scooters are regulated by state law for bicycles, and that kind of absolves the police department from doing a lot of enforcement things because it follows the line of what you have to do with bicycles. The one thing about the scooter program is that it's heavily depending on an app, and for a user to rent the scooter, they have to have a credit card, and then it's on the scooter, and they download all that, and then they're charged for that. But before they can even operate it, they have to have a helmet, and they also have to go through a fairly lengthy safety start. You can't fast forward through the app to just start riding. You have to complete the safety education on the app. I'm going to bring more information at the next meeting. I guess the goal was, and I've talked to Chief Nicole about this as well. She's been in a couple meetings with Britt and I. I think what I'm looking for right now is this something you guys would like to try, and I'll provide more information and more details on the 22nd, and then we can talk to Mr. Butler from Bird Scooter. Is this something that we're even interested in?
Very good. So you'll be bringing us more information, John, moving forward. I could see a lot of exciting potential with respect to this. We'll move to the council for additional questions, comments. Councilor Johnson?
To answer your question, yes. I think having one of these based at the miners as we're working on all the other trail stuff that we're working on, we'll need to make sure that we're making sure we're not excluding or, their double wide stuff, but this is the kind of thing that people look for when they're going places. I look for it for my family when we go somewhere. What else can we do? So I think this is great, and just to make it formal, I would move that we authorize staff to continue working on this project and bring us more information that might include the agreement.
All right, motion by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
All support.
Support by Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Freely.
John, would we be able to utilize these on the Mesabi Trail, or would they be not able to? I think it would be beneficial to have them on the Mesabi Trail, to be honest with you.
Yes.
It would increase usage on that and also tourism in the area, so.
Can use the trails.
Because of the bicycle nature, that would be something that would be acceptable.
Yep.
That's a good thing. Thank you.
And the
And
other
across
thing
the bridge too, right?
Oh, yeah. The other thing I forgot to mention is it's not up to the city to collect all these and manage them and all that kind of thing. What Bird does is they partner with a local vendor and they reimburse that local vendor. So they asked me who we should talk to, and Britt and I had talked about it for a little bit, and we put them in touch with Mike Priest over at Mesabi Recreation. They haven't reached out to Mike at Mesabi Recreation yet, and we're guessing the reason for that is they're waiting for the presentation on the 22nd to see if we're interested. But so far, everything in Grand Rapids has been fine. They've enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, John. Councilor Beyondich, then over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And I would be in support of this, but I do have an awful lot of questions. And one of them was the Mesabi Trail, and being an avid biker, I know how important it is. They try to police the ATVs and the motorized vehicles on that trail. One of the issues that I have run into on that trail is people flying up behind you. So that would be my experience on the bike trail with the motorized vehicle. I would fully support this, but I will have a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask that we invite or loop in Artie from the Club Mesabi, because she's part of that group, and then I forget who actually manages the trail, because there are some stipulations about no motorized vehicles, but these are electric and not, so I would want to make sure we clarify, because that Club Mesabi and or the Mesabi Trail Management may be another potential vendor that would have more of the ability to manage. So if we could make sure that we reach out to Artie and let her know, because then we can have those questions answered from the authority on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And it does follow the bicycle rules and regulations, so bicycle traffic, same rules apply to the scooters. In addition to that, you've got all the physically challenged people who have scooters. They have three-wheelers, they have two-wheelers that they use, and they're also authorized to use them on the trail as well. John?
Thank you. Mike Butler will be on the line on the 22nd, so sketch out all your questions, and I have a couple questions for him as well. So we can just fire away and ask him a lot of stuff on the 22nd meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, John. So it has been moved and supported to move forward with staff to continue this conversation, and a presentation we look forward to on the 22nd. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. This might be for afterwards, but if we're going to continue to have these Zoom presentations or go to meeting, however we're doing it, we really need to make sure our system is working. And I don't know, when Tierney was here, we talked to them, but it isn't a Tierney thing. It's a communication between us and the downstairs facility. Is that correct? So I don't know what we need to do, but it's getting increasingly frustrating not to be able to hear when someone's making a presentation, and to me, it's not very professional when we have to have our questions repeated by someone else. So I don't know what that looks like, but I would really like to see that get taken care of, and I don't know if that needs to be an emotion after this or not, but, well, I mean, that's what we've been saying for 2 years, since
And we've
this
been
was
doing
installed.
things. Yeah, we just had Tierney here, was it a month ago, working on the system again too. And we just had a computer installed in the computer back there to monitor the traffic, to see how the internet's working. So we are.
It's the
working on it.
hearing component.
Yep.
They can't hear.
Yep, it's our broadband, our bandwidth is where.
So it's our
problem.
output.
Yep.
So I don't know what we can do, but I think that needs to be solved. And we're spending almost $500,000 with Tierney. Somebody should be able to tell us exactly what we need to do to fix the problem and how much it's going to cost. So that's my take on that as we go forward.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and supported to have staff move forward with providing additional information and a presentation on the 22nd regarding the bird scooters. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approve a transient merchant license for Co T-Tran doing business at Saigon Cafe for the Food Truck Festival.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And then item number 11, we had a request for approval to waive the fees for the Balbadrika Bandstand for the Advocates for Family Peace event.
Yes, I'm fully supportive of this, obviously. Brian?
Yes, Advocates for Family Peace, you may know that they are a local nonprofit organization here that deals a lot with domestic violence. They are requesting permission to utilize the bandstand in Alcott Park and also have us provide some sound equipment on June 30th. They would be utilizing this from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. They're planning on doing the setup, having the event, and cleaning up. The event would start at the Angel of Hope Memorial, and they would do a walk to the bandstand in Alcott Park and have some speakers and everything at the event. I have not had the opportunity to take this request to the Park and Recreation Commission due to the time frame of meetings. I'm kind of doing it in the reverse order of bringing it to the City Council before I bring it to the Park and Rec Commission, just because of how the meeting schedule falls this month.
Okay, thank you.
But I would be in support of waiving the $65 fee for the nonprofit for this.
Of course. Yes, thank you. A motion, concerns, comments, questions from the elected body. Counselor Johnson?
I would move that we approve waiving the fees and direct city staff to help appropriately with the equipment.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
I'll support. Can you give me that time frame again, Brian, on the park? What's the time frame for that?
6 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
On June 30th.
On June 30th.
Thank you.
So it's been moved and supported by Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson?
Thank you. Is this, when we just redid the packages for the city, does the nonprofit fall under waiving of the fee, or is it a reduced fee?
For any of our park buildings, there are no reduced fees. If you want a reduced or a waived fee, you have to send me a letter that I take to the Park and Rec Commission and City Council for approval.
Okay, and does that apply for all of our city outbuildings? Okay, and so that's on a case-by-case basis, so we're not setting a precedent or?
Correct.
And this has also been done in the past by other groups?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Britt?
Thank you. I do have one other item that I'd like to bring up, that we have received applications for the event the event manager at the MAC, event facility manager. We have 25 applicants. I need an interview committee so I can set a date for interviews for that position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we have lots of volunteers, but I do want, I would request that we have at least one member of the Personnel Committee on that interview, and then whoever else would like to volunteer. So looking for volunteers to sit on this committee. Counselor Freely is indicated a volunteer. Counselor Johnson is considered to be a volunteer. Counselor Freely is on the Personnel Committee. And how many are you requesting?
Or the hiring policy says up to 3.
Up to 3. So we have 2 volunteers, Counselor Johnson. We also have Counselor Freely. So we have 2. We can up to 3. Counselor Beyondich?
Do you know when that would take place, Brett?
Nope, that'd be my next question. After the meeting, I'll meet with the 3 and ask when we want to do the interviews.
I will volunteer.
So as part of the elected body here, there's been our city administrators requesting up to 3 people in accordance with the hiring policy to sit on these interviews for the facilities manager position. We have volunteers from 1 member of our personnel committee, Counselor Freely. We have Counselor Johnson and Counselor Beyondich, who has also volunteered to serve on these committee. So I'm looking for a motion on the floor to approve the volunteers and as representatives of the council in this interview panel. Counselor Paulson?
I'll move to approve Counselors Johnson, Beyondich, and Freely.
Thank you. Counselor Paulson moves to approve. Is there support?
I'll support, Mayor.
Support by Counselor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson?
Further discussion would be, this went internal, now it's going external.
We already received applications for this one. It went.
This is the facilities
This is the
manager.
facilities manager, the
So could we
event
get,
coordinator position.
they're 2 different ones.
Yep. This is not the janitorial one. This is the one that is the event person.
Okay, that wasn't clarified. So this is the event coordinator, not
coordinator.
the facilities
Right.
manager.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay,
So
okay.
MAPE waived the right to have it go internal, said it could go
Right.
internal and external at the same time.
So if it's a MAPE position going to our, because I was thinking it's a facility manager, which is AFSME, so if it goes into MAPE, isn't it required under our hiring policy that the full council sit?
For the second interview.
For the second set of interviews,
Okay.
right?
Okay,
So there will be a second interview on this one. The interview committee meets first. They bring forward for the recommendation for the second interviews to the full council.
So it's kind of a weeding out process?
Correct,
And then when the
correct.
finalists come, it comes before the
Correct. There was-
elected body?
25 applications received for this position.
Okay, thank you. Does that clarify things for you, Counselor Paulson?
yes, thank you.
Very good, thank you. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Baraboo?
Yeah, Britt, is this pare down going to be down to a certain number for the final, when the whole council, or you're going to have a boatload of people? How are you going to do this?
It's up to the interview committee.
Okay, is that part of our policy?
Yes.
I didn't realize that it was. I thought we had a set number for finalists.
No, this is the process we've been using, and it's working. We don't normally bring forward every single person we interview in the first round. It usually comes down to,
No, I'm talking the final round that we do.
yep, so the interview committee will do the first round,
Yep,
and they'll bring forward a recommendation to the full council for second round interviews.
okay, and then if they want a third round, they can have a third
We can do a
round.
third round. We've never had to do one, but we sure could.
Okay, all right, answer my question, thank you.
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have one more item on the agenda, and it's a late request for the Food Truck Festival. I was just given this just before the council meeting. There's a request from Melissa Ann Sunval, doing business as Wow Catering, for the Food Truck Festival. They'll be using a Freedom trailer. They'll be doing loaded tater kegs, egg rolls wrapped with mozzie sticks and shredded beef and porchetta sandwiches. And so there you have it. So it's a late request for the Food Truck Festival from Melissa Ann Sunval from War Catering. I received this from Pam just before she left today, and they have all the applications, and they've paid the fee. They have the certificate of insurance. They meet all the requests and requirements that that the city imposes in order to approve this. So we're looking for council action.
Move to approve.
Support. Paulson moves to approve and supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. No further things? I have one item I'd like to bring up before we go, and I just want to let you know that the special session of the legislature started yesterday. There's a lot of things that was pared down, and the special legislation is, they're only going to look at just a short amount of bills moving forward. Unfortunately, the House and the Senate bill are different with respect to the public safety building sales tax issue with our building materials to waive those sales tax fees. The Senate bill says that any public safety building, they would agree to waive the fees, the tax fees. The House bill only lists the certain amount of businesses or public safety building projects that have been identified. Virginia is one of them, but that didn't come through. They didn't pass it. They didn't hear the bills. They just deferred them, and they're not going to hear them in this special session. They could hear them, but the likelihood is they will not. But in speaking to our local legislator this morning, Representative Lizlegard, he had confirmed that that's the case, and that he was assured by the committee chair that they would be looking at authorizing this sales tax forgiveness next year, and then that's probably when we're going to be starting our project. So we would be included in that as well. The Senate bill always will carry forward with all public safety buildings, and then the House bill is with those that are identified, which Virginia is part of that. So they will be looking at that next year. I would imagine, depending on the pot of money. So that's kind of in a nutshell. There's a lot of other idiosyncrasies involved in that process. Talking to the legislators last Sunday, but it's that's the way it is right now in the tax bill. Nothing about the appropriation bill, nothing about the general bill, nothing about the state transportation bill. This is just the tax bill. Councilor Bearable.
Do we need to, Brett, then, or Larry, resubmit for next year then under that? Or it's not one of those that just carries over, is it? Because you got to be careful on that.
Well, according to Representative Lizlegard, this is in this bill. It will, and all the information that we provided, unless we want to provide some additional information, will be included in next year as all the information stays where it is. We don't have to resubmit unless we have additional information to submit, if we have to update our numbers or whatever the case may be.
Some of those things, if you don't resubmit it, you're out.
Yeah.
So I make sure we're not out.
And my question to him was exactly that, and Representative Lizgard assured us that all those things remain intact, and any additional information could be provided in the next year's as a bonding year anyway.
All right,
So,
okay, that works.
okay, thank you. Okay, just some FYI for you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to direct city staff to work between our cable commission output and Tierney Brothers to get our sound equipment and output up to date and up to speed, so when we have presentations, that we can all understand each other.
Okay, motion by Councilor Paulson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Beyondich. Any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Councilor Paulson, I would ask that include the actual equipment up here for the visual broadcast as
Included.
well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Before we adjourn, any other councilor have any questions, comments, or announcements they'd like to make at the committee of the whole meeting?
Music in the park tonight, Mayor.
Yes, music in the park tonight. Let's rock and roll. Too bad you can't serve popcorn yet. All right. All right. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We stand adjourned.